I've said it before, one of our favorite people to talk to is author Robert Jeschonek. Always interested to find out the projects that he's involved with. And there are many, but one of the highlights of doing this job is talking to some really cool creative people. And one of my favorites, I always hate to put this pressure on you, Bob, because I always give these big grand build-ups of like what this conversation is going to be about. So no pressure, sir.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Keep it coming. What else do you have to say about me?
Bob Jeschonek, everybody. Good to have you with us.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm so happy to be back and to be back in the studio.
Yes,
wonderful.
We have not spoken to Robert Jeschonek live in quite some time. And it's good to have you in here. But, it's amazing what we've had to go through the last year and a half or so. But it's enabled you to stay busy, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a ton of what my granddad used to say, a ton of irons in the fire right now, don't you?
I sure do. Oh, my God. It never ends. But that's what makes life interesting.
Right.
As with yourself, you always have multiple projects going on, and that's what keeps you engaged.
Yes, and one of the things that we've talked about in the past is how you like to dabble here and there in different things. And that's enabled you to do this, to juggle project after project, and even having a couple things going on at the same time, right?
Yeah, it really has. I have several projects at all times, and that's, like I said, that's what keeps me engaged, and it makes life fun and interesting. And right now I've got a couple of things happening that I hope your listeners will be interested to hear about. I know they will be.
Yeah. One of the last times that we talked to you in the studio, you talked about what you were working on through Kickstarter, which was something that I didn't know existed. I've now since found out a lot more about it. But again, I can't assume that people heard this conversation. So please tell them, before we talk about the projects, what Kickstarter is. Okay.
Well, Kickstarter is all about what they call crowdfunding, which is, it means that you can use an online website to spread the good word about a project that you're working on, and then folks out there online can go on the website and can pledge to support your project.
Right.
They can pledge at different levels, give different levels of support, like $1, $5, $10, and in return, they get rewards of different kinds, which are always cool, and they also get to help make your project a reality.
Right.
So it's really become a fantastic way for lots and lots of people to make creative projects a reality, to bring them to fruition.
And this must help you, because a lot of what you do, and we've talked about this many times, has a local flavor. And not everybody who would be interested in things of a local flavor necessarily live here. You can reach them a lot better. They can help support you.
Oh, that's really true, Bo. In fact, as you know, Johnstowners are everywhere. I
Right.
mean, they really are.
I've learned that myself with T-shirts that I've worn about local stuff when I've been in various places. You know what I mean? So it's kind of that's kind of a cool thing. So that's really awesome.
I always love that when you go on vacation and as you said, you have a T-shirt on, or you make some kind of indication, you use the word yins or something.
Yes.
And somebody's like, hey, I'm from Western PA too. And it's like, oh, they're not only from Western PA, they're like from your neighborhood. You just didn't realize it.
Wear an Iron City beer shirt in Florida and then see the reaction you get from people.
Florida, that's big time Johnstown land and Pittsburgh land. Oh my goodness.
Author Robert Jeschonek joining us here. So again, we talk about local flavor. We talk about all the stuff that you're involved with, but please let our listeners know what's going on.
Well, first up, as we've been talking about just now, I have a new project on Kickstarter, and the website for that is Kickstarter.com. Right? Easy enough to find.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, one word, Kickstarter.com. And this project is it's to support a series of science fiction novels that I've written that I'm in the process of finishing.
Yeah.
I have 2 books done in this series, and I have 4 more that I'm working on. But this first Kickstarter is for the first 2 books, and the idea behind it is to help me to publish the books in ebook, paperback, and hardcover form. And then also there are a lot of great rewards coming through this as well. But what it is, it's a science fiction series called the Starbarian Saga.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I can sum it up for your listeners best by saying it's about Conan the Barbarian meeting Star Wars.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah.
Not those actual characters, but it's as if, right? So
Yeah.
imagine that combination. It's barbarians in space, hence Starbarians.
Nice.
As the title.
Nice.
So if you like science fiction and action-oriented stories, then this is a great project for you to support. And I hope you'll consider jumping in and becoming one of our backers. There are all kinds of different reward levels, and you can back it at as low as $1 just to say, I love your project and I want to support it. Maybe I'm not a big science fiction fan, but I just want to do something. $1 or $5 can make a difference. Or if you're really a fan of this kind of stuff, then jump in at a higher level and you can get different rewards, including the paperback edition, the hardcover edition, also buttons, pins, air fresheners.
Nice, yeah.
Featuring really cool artwork by this guy named Tom Edwards. He's a great sci-fi artist who did the covers for the series. And then there's also another reward level at which you can get a cameo appearance in one of the novels, which...
Wow.
And that's a big thing.
That's
like
pretty
done in a
cool.
lot of campaigns now.
Yeah, right.
On Kickstarter and these other sites. Can you imagine, Bo, being a young Bo Moore, reading an Asimov science fiction novel or Robert Heinlein or Frank Herbert's Dune, and you're able to support that book, and Frank Herbert says, "Yes, I will write you into the novel by name, Bo." And it's like
cool.
Duke, Leo Atreides walks down the hallway and meets Bo Moore walking the other direction. So it's a really cool reward, and it's the kind of thing I would have loved as a young fan.
That's awesome. Curious, Bob, people that have interacted with you, that have contributed, have they contributed because they're a fan of previous works that you've done too? Like say that they love this science fiction stuff that you do, or maybe they're not necessarily a fan of the science fiction, but they love the stuff with local flair, but they love the work that you do, so they reach out and support. I bet you have stories like this all the time.
Definitely. I definitely have a lot of crossover between the folks who primarily love my local flavored work and those who love my science fiction and fantasy and thriller style work.
Yeah.
So it's great because these folks on either side have said that they enjoy the writing so much, they want to see more of it, and they want to help make it possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it goes to show that to stay competitive among this world of authors all over the place, you have to keep on top of technology. You have to keep on top of all the developments with this stuff, because it's not what it used to be, right? It's not that you publish something and you hope to get the major bookstores to discover who you are. It's not that way anymore, is it?
No, it's not, Bo. We could talk about this all day. We should do this sometime, just have a long conversation about publishing, because it's so interesting. It has changed so much. And I'll bet some of your listeners are even author publishers right now as we speak. There are quite a few of them in this local area, which is...
It's talented people.
It didn't
a lot of
happen
talented people,
back in the day like it does now.
Right.
Thanks to the internet and all these different opportunities. There has never been a better time to be a writer and a publisher.
Right.
You can do it all yourself. But as you said, it's a huge challenge because there are like thousands of people every day who jump on board. So there's this vast ocean of content, and it's so hard to stand out. That's why you have to come up with different ideas and approaches. And you might have seen my head explode a couple of times while I've been talking about this, because it's all I can do sometimes to sort of stay ahead of the technology and the trends, and try to use those tools to promote my work.
Author Robert Jeschonek talking about his current projects he's working on as part of Kickstarter, which involves science fiction and the creative imagination that you have, the writing process. Just a little bit about this, Bob, if we could talk about it. But because you have such a vivid imagination, sometimes you have to reel yourself in whenever you're writing something, because you have to make it seem believable, or you have to make it seem like, well, maybe that's a little too far-fetched. Maybe there's a direction that you want to go, but sometimes you have to kind of edit yourself.
funny you should say that, Bo. That's one of the things about my work. You're right. I do rein myself in on certain things, like the local-oriented books, like the Glosser books and the Penn Traffic books and Richland Mall books. Yeah, I have to stay within the realm of believability. But yes, in the science fiction world and the fantasy world, I do tend to go all out. It's like full throttle, because that's what I love about fiction. I can talk about this all day too. It's like when you have the imagination, you can bring it to bear on the page. You can create things that have never existed before.
Right.
And I know they say, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Will Shakespeare said that long ago. Yeah. And it's true to an extent, but in reality, there are lots of new approaches. There are always new ways for you to convey your stories and your thoughts and your thematic intent and your love of writing and your approach to life, your thoughts on life and the meaning of life. And there's so much that you can do it. So I do tend to go all out on the fiction side, but you're right also in that you always need to ground the work in the characters and make sure that it's very clear that things happen for a reason and that everything is there to contribute to the entirety of the story. Yeah,
this subject is pretty cool. I love this because as we talk about science fiction, here is a marriage of your love of science fiction and your love of local things. There's a local hero that is currently being celebrated that has been owed his due for a long, long time. And it's so cool that people are recognizing this right now, and you're involved with this. And I know you're excited about this, and I am too, because just like, I often talk about Alan Freed, the guy that first coined the term rock and roll, was born in this region. Yeah. But there's another guy that was born in this region who, to me, is just as important. And please tell us about this project you're working on. Yeah,
Steve Ditko is the artist and writer and creator who co-created Spider-Man back in the 60s and created Doctor Strange and created dozens and dozens of other characters and generated thousands and thousands of pages of graphic storytelling in his career. And he was from Johnstown.
Yes.
And when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but I didn't know that. There were like rumors.
Right, exactly. Yeah. We heard that, maybe, I think the guy that, created, Spider-Man is from right here. And I'd be like, no. That's a guy named Stan Lee,
Yeah.
That's not the full story. And now we know the full story, don't we?
Yeah. That had the exact same experience.
Right.
We had heard things, but it was never definite. And now we know he was born here in Johnstown, and then he moved to New York and became the big artist, the famous artist working for DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Charlton Comics, all these companies. And yet, fascinatingly enough, he would also return to Johnstown every year on vacation, at least once or twice a year, and stay with his family. So there are probably listeners of your show out there who probably sat beside him on the train.
Yes.
Or stood beside him in Sheetses.
Yes.
Waiting for a death dog or something. And he just never knew it. There's Steve Ditko, like one of the most famous guys in the world, which he is.
Right.
And he was right. Anyway, I get real excited talking about Steve because I love comic books. But they have a new exhibit this year at the Bottle Works, right? It's in progress.
We just spoke to our friend Matt Lamb about this. What's going on right now, and he was just as excited as you are.
I'll bet
about this.
He's great.
He explained to me that one of the reasons why a lot of people don't know who Steve Ditko is because that Stan Lee, who is seen as the sole creator by many, just has this big personality. Steve Ditko was a very shy, reserved guy that didn't want the spotlight, right?
Well, there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Stan did kind of overwhelm others in his orbit.
Yeah.
That's true. And he did tend to like to take credit for things. Though ultimately he did finally give Steve the credit that he deserved in a letter. He said, Steve helped me with Spider-Man and he created Doctor Strange.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is really cool. So tell us a little bit about what you're all involved with this, because it obviously had to take some connection with family and right. I mean, this is a labor of love for you, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it really is. It's a book that's been coming my entire life, really, and I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to write it. I'm working with the Ditko family, actually,
That's awesome.
in developing this book. And I've already written the text, and we're looking toward getting it published sometime in the near future. And so hopefully it'll be available, to your listeners very soon. But one way or another, I'll keep you apprised.
Please do.
You know,
Please
I'll
do.
be
Please
knocking
do.
on your door. The working title right now is Another Side of Steve Ditko, A Life with Family and Friends. And it really tells a lot of stories about his life and the time that he spent with his family, with his brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces, and all the wonderful things that they did together, all the wonderful times that they shared, and how that reflects on his career and work, and how it informed his work. And also we talked to some of his colleagues from the comic book side of things, people who knew him, friends, and people who associated with him. It's really a great book, and there are going to be so many photos and images from his life, different things that have never been seen before. Because if you look him up online, you won't find much in the way of photos. There just wasn't much out there. But the family has opened the archives.
Nice.
This treasure trove of photography.
Yeah.
And memorabilia, and they're putting it all out there in this book. So I'll keep you apprised, but it's coming. It has been written, so your listeners should look out for this. It's going to be great.
And again, I'm so happy that somebody that deserves his due is finally getting it, and the name is known by many within this community, but there should be more. And I've told you before, there should be a statue of this man.
I support that wholeheartedly. I hope that it comes to pass.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think it's significant. He was one of the most famous people to ever come out of this city, by far. He has had the hugest impact, I think, of almost anyone from this city on the world culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's made a huge difference.
Bob Jeschonek joining us to talk about the current projects that he is involved in. And I'm sure we've left some stuff out right now. Bob, could you tell the world about what's ahead for you?
Yeah, I want to mention I'm working on a book of short stories about the holidays with Glosser Brothers, and I'm wrapping that up. And then also, as we mentioned, the Ditko book, which is coming down the pike, and I hope your listeners will stay tuned for that. And I have the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Could I give you a little bit of information on how to access that, how
Please
to find it?
do. Yes, sir.
Go on the interwebs and look up Kickstarter.com. And just search for Starbarian Saga.
Starbarian Saga.
Like Star Barbarians. Starbarian Saga. I have an address that I could read off too.
Please,
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm going to do that, though I know that's kind of a pain. But
No, that's all right.
You know, if your listeners want to jot this down, http:// that's the usual stuff. K as in Kickstarter, C as in Charlie, K as in Kickstarter, dot, S as in super, T as in time, / 36, then capital L, and then lowercase EDTU.
Nice.
I know. Who wrote that down? I don't think anybody. But just look up Starbarians on Kickstarter. And thanks for your support, everybody. I so appreciate this community and everything you guys do to help make my writing a reality.
That is awesome. Bob, you never disappoint. Let me tell you something, man. This is, I've said it before, one of my top 10 people to have in here. And it's been too long. And, please come back again. Keep us posted about this. But I am so interested in everything that you're involved with. And, especially the Steve Ditko thing. I'm sure that's perked up some ears of like people listening to this.
I hope, because he deserves to get his due.
Yes.
Great guy.
As do you. Robert Jeschonek, local author, as always. Greatly appreciate your time today, sir.
Thanks, Bo. Thanks for having me.